I haven't seen your video.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody's at the door.
Anyway,
Wow.
we don't support each other. We don't work together as much as we should. We're more concerned about our own journey or whatever it is that we're doing. And I'm not trying to criticize or anything, but that's what I'm seeing. And
I agree.
And the more we work together and support each other, the greater the exponential effect will be. And so one of the things that we're doing here that I think is important is to surround yourself with people that empower you and support you even behind your back.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They don't backstab you or gossip or whatever. And it says in the Bible, gossip is like bitter gall in the mouth of the Lord. And there's a lot of so-called light workers all gossiping, and yeah. Not good.
Not good at all. And the dark, they all stick together and push their same agenda and you don't have the kind of division. So I mean, I don't know what to do to correct that problem, except I'm going to be putting out another little short video. This time I'm going to be the mission, because I use the theme royalty-free music from Mission Impossible and Making It Mission Possible. And to a simple request. It doesn't cost you anything to make somebody smile, does it? And it might actually make their whole day. And so I'm going to do another version, only this time I'm going to say the mission is to do an act of kindness, a random act of kindness. So I don't know, those are the kinds of things I do, and I try to invite guests on that have spiritual messages, that have sometimes political opinions, I call them, more than anything else, and that doesn't mean I agree with them. But I mostly been focusing on having people on that I think have something to offer people that will actually help them. Yep. And not make them feel guilty, not make them feel like they're not good enough, or they're not, they just don't have the kind of experience that some of the, the light workers do, or the spiritual people do. They just feel like they're just, in kindergarten and they're being punished for, not doing all the work that they're supposed to be doing, when sometimes they don't even know what that work is. That's how I see it. So I'm trying to find the simplest possible solutions around. Like make somebody smile, to encourage random acts of kindness, and just keep having on people like you people here. That's why I think I've had most of you on, or I have the plan to in the future. So that's one of
Wow. I just actually heard my team say that you are an angel of joy. That's what they just said.
Really?
Yeah, they said you're an angel of joy because one of your missions on earth is to help people create joy.
Whoa, that's awesome.
So I just heard that just now. They're talking in my head here, and they're like, they called you an angel of joy, and I'm like, I was having like a telepathic conversation, and they're like, she's an angel of joy. It's like, okay.
Well, that can't be bad.
Anyways, yeah, and then Victoria's, she's an angel of victory, right? She's like the angel of victory, or seraphim of victory. Yeah, absolutely.
The Elohim of freedom.
Elohim of freedom. That's right.
Fearless and free.
That's right. Fearless and free. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. The Elohim of freedom. Okay. All right, Sandra McKellis, what do you think about all this spiritual bypassing stuff? Because I listen to your videos, and your videos are so. You remind me of the Native American. The grandmothers, if you know who the grandmothers are, they're like the saints, or like the feminine saints of the Native American tradition, that are like the wise woman who had all the children gathered around the fire and were teaching them everything, like all that. You're a very wise old soul. When I listen to your videos, you're a very wise old soul, and the way you speak is very, how do I want to say, no nonsense approach. You just say what's on your heart, and you just speak it. And I love that. You speak your truth just perfectly. So I want to hear from you. What do you think of all this spiritual bypassing that's going on in the world right now, with people who think that they're going to be Mario Brothers and they're going to leap up to the next level without doing any kind of work?
Thank you, Kimberly. And if they want to be Mario Brothers, let them be it.
Yeah.
It's their lessons to learn. And as we all know, it's all about keeping it simple and aligning yourself. And there's a lot of calls out there right now. And even you'll hear someone being followed. They have high subscriber rates, and, YouTube, Ascension and all that stuff. And then as soon as you hear something bad about them, you've got half the team ready to dump them and send them down the river when they don't even have the facts. So I look at all of those things. Again, I will say the same thing I've said to you guys over and over again. It's not my place. It's just a big distraction. And I keep getting the saying that, I might be wrong, but who's to say what's right? And then, my guides have changed it to, I might be right, but who's really to say what's right and what's wrong if you actually have to label it? And that's the sad thing, is we're labeling it. We're still working in that playing field of polarity. If it isn't this, then it has to be all the way over here. And so for me, I don't listen to a whole lot of social media. I do my best to sort of balance my own scales on a daily basis, whether I'm in a different timeline and still functioning as a 3D human, or I'm a 3D human functioning in a couple different timelines. There's a lot of scrapping going on, and unfortunately, it's exactly what my guide said we would come down to, as many of yours have told you. It's going to come down to, it's people think it's survival of the fittest. So it's like, okay, I'm going to take you out, because it's going to make me look higher on the ladder, when really it's everybody's lessons to do what they need to do, good, bad, or indifferent. Can we actually sit still, listen to the information if we're called to, and then can we just say, like, I have no opinion? Really, honestly, I have no opinion, because there's things that you all will say and other people will say that I have no way to verify. So am I going to sit here and spend the rest of my day trying to dot your I's and your T's to prove to myself that possibly all this information is correct? Or am I going to align myself to be the best I can be in this moment, create my own history from this moment, and still maintain some sort of equilibrium and happiness in my God self? So that's what I have to say about it.
Yep. I knew you'd have something very wise to say, because every time you speak, it's always just all this wisdom just kind of pours out. So I knew you.
Well, thank you, because I never know what I'm going to say. I stay completely neutral, and then I don't even remember what the heck I said. So I hope that it helps. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Victoria, Gail, Sandra, so far. And Ismael, what do you have to say about all of this spiritual bypassing that people are doing? Because, by the way, I want to share this with everybody. I have Ismael's book here. I don't know let's see if the camera will, there we go. Our Cosmic Origin. And I just started reading it, and I'm only 25 pages in so far, but everything I've read so far is awesome. And everybody I know is just commenting that this book is awesome. But, your book has a lot to do with all this, ascension stuff. So what do you think about the spiritual bypassing people?
Well, I think that, there is a dark or Luciferian attempt to hijack the fifth dimensional, what we call the ascension, the organic ascension. And we have to be careful. They call it the false light, where angels of light or beings of light masquerade as dark entities, and, all in the name of, love and light. They try to give you information that could actually allow you, information that instead of empowering you, it allows you to build some sort of externalization where you depend on these people for the information, and then you start seeing them as your God. Mm-hmm. And that's my issue. I believe that, the galactics aren't here to save us. If people don't realize that we have to all do our own work, mm-hmm. we're not going to be ascending. And the only way we're going to have any change on a collective level by a solar flash of some kind is if enough of us do the work, clear the wounds, clear our pathways, find a neutral point between light and dark, because we all have light and dark,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And in doing so, collapsing the polarity, right? Singularity. And then once we all do that, then we're going to be waiting for a great event such as the solar flash, or we could expect a great event such as the solar flash to kind of catapult everybody into the higher dimension. But you're right, we have to do the work, and we are going to be going into 4D before we get into 5D. So it is a process. It's not like we go from first grade to third grade. We have to first master each level, right, before we move on to the next. And depending on where you're at, some people are going to be mastering the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension faster than others. So yes, there's going to be different levels of upgrades or different levels where not everyone's going to end up in the same dimension, but at the same time, everyone's going to be given the opportunity to go up the grades into higher levels of reality. But we have to do the work, and we have to stop externalizing our power to, even the white hats. It's like everyone's waiting for the white hats to liberate us.
They're not.
They're not. Yeah. I'm starting to think that this whole duality is really just a game. In the eyes of the creator, it is a game that was set in motion long ago, and I think as the reason we were created as the most hybridized race is because we carry, the genetics of every race out there, whether good or bad. We have it all. We even have a little bit of Draco in us, but it's to balance the karma. It's to balance everything out and to really just be the peace givers and the ones who end the conflict in the galaxy. Because what we do here is going to have repercussions on every level and on every reality. And so it's up to us to save the multiverse. And I've always been saying that. So that's how important we are. And we can't give our power away to anybody. This is the time to let go of the crutches. Yes, Saint Germain, Metatron, Archangel Michael, they did their part, but now it's time for us to have that direct connection to God, bypassing all the ascended beings and all the galactics and not depending on them, to help us or to save us. Because in the end, no one's going to save us. No. Every single one of us
we're saving
has
ourselves.
To save us. Yeah, so that's my perspective, is that we're all our own saviors. And that's why there's going to be no galactic interference, and that's why there's going to be no, white hats. You know what I mean, right? Liberating humanity, because there's still a lot of people that are not doing the work.
Knight in shining armor.
This conflict is going to continue until enough of us do the work, and then I believe that the solar flash will be the events that is going to, change everything and catapult everyone into a better world, or what we call the, age of love, the age of light, the age of Aquarius.
Wow. Thank you, Ismael. I really appreciate that perspective. And I agree with you on no knight in shining armor is going to come in, no white hats. Everybody is like, oh, the white hats are going to save us. The white hats are, no. We have to save ourselves. Absolutely. And Victoria and I have had these conversations over and over and over again. I've talked to Selene about this, about how we have to save ourselves. I don't know how many conversations that we've had about this, but it's so funny because back in 2011, when Yeshua popped in and told me that I had to do this work that I'm doing right now with everybody, he said, Kimberly, you're not a lone wolf. You have to get together with the other light workers, and all of you have to work as a team. He said, you will not save the planet unless you all come together. That's what he said. He said, you all have to come together. Can't be fighting, can't be arguing, can't be backstabbing, can't be trying to compete with each other. I have all these people who try to compete with me. I'm not interested in competing with anyone. It's like, don't even bother trying to compete with me, because I don't give a hoot about that. I want to collaborate with as many people as possible, whether it's all of you or whoever it is, as many people as I can possibly collaborate with to save our planet. We have to all come together, not try to do it our own way and not be stubborn and not, that's all ego, and that's all very third density stuff. Again, when people let go of, I don't like to use the word release because that means bring it back again. When you let go of this preconceived ego thing that you have to compete or be better than others or blah, 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 or, have it your way or get your opinion on everyone. Everyone has to believe the way you believe. When you're able to finally let go of all that and come together with an open heart full of love and joy and creativity and say, let's get creative and figure out how do we save this planet. That's when we're really going to go up to the next level, is when we can all come together with these open hearts and say, what can we creatively do to make this a better place? That is what I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you state that it's about working as a team, coming together, because that's what's happening. We are all linking up. The forces of light. We are really the saviors, the ground crew. Not so much galactics, but the ground crew are the saviors. Mm-hmm. So as we continue to link up and we continue working together, we're going to have faster effects for the planet.
That is what is really key, and that's not what's happening just yet. It's starting, it's just beginning, but bringing the light workers together to work together and to support each other, because I've been told that it really doesn't take that many to make the change.
Yeah,
you're not going to get everybody.
No, you won't get everybody, but we do need a fair amount, more than like a half or an eighth of 1%. I mean, you need a fair amount of people. Definitely.
I heard as little as 9,000. Now that could be really wrong, but if enough people are at the right frequency and they're working together, it's going to go exponentially.
Yes.
And so that's the
basically
idea.
what I've been told for years is that one person in the resonance of unconditional love can make up for 1,000 people who are not. So it's really
thank you. Yes.
It's my understanding it's about 1%. We are the other 1%, as I often say. So, and I've been saying for years that the light needs to be just as organized as the dark. The dark side has been phenomenal at organizing, and we have not been. So,
and they stick together. They really stick together.
Lights all over the planet, but we haven't come together as these lighthouses. And so now that's what we're starting to create.
Right.
Is understanding that competition was created specifically to keep us divided and conquered. All this narrative that's been swirling around about us versus them, black versus white, man versus woman, Democrat versus Republican, all of that was created to keep us divided and conquered. And enough of us need to recognize all those labels were created specifically to keep us from unifying and organizing. So I think enough people are finally starting to understand what we're the ones we've been waiting for actually means.
Yeah.
Up here, it's here, and we know that. We know we are the ones that we've waited for. We chose to be here at this time specifically to help guide humanity into this next realm. And we know that. Enough of us are finally grasping it's not just lip service. We know that fact that we are it. And the teams of light, the Galactic Alliance, the Light Alliance, whatever name it is that they showed me about 2 years ago to start using the term alliance rather than federation. That they're here to assist us.
Yes.
They will not do the work for us.
Exactly.
We have to stand up and do the work ourselves. And when enough of us stand up and start doing the work ourselves, they will come and help us. And they cannot interfere with
they have rules of non-interference, which is what I was talking about earlier. As the people who are targeted, is the reason they're targeted is because the Draco break all of the universal laws of non-interference. They go against your free will. When you're tricked into a false light contract, you've lost all your free will. So for somebody to say that you chose that when you never had any free will to begin with, they have no clue what they're talking about.
And they will be held accountable. So even though it doesn't look like they're being held accountable in this blip of time,
right now, they will.
Time and space, they will be held accountable for breaking the prime directive, which is free will choice.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chelsea Colley, haven't heard from you yet, and then we're going to ask Selene to talk about the same thing. So Chelsea, what have you seen in your own community, in your own life, with people who are doing this love and light and spiritual bypassing baloney that they do? They just don't want to put any work in. They want somebody to just hand them 5D on a silver platter. What have you seen?
Well, thank you for having me, Kimberly, and I feel really honored to be invited to be here, like among greats, like yourself included. I look up to all of you, so thank you so much. And I just had a quick clarifying question. Is this spiritual bypassing, is this kind of a term that you've made, or are they actually using spiritual bypassing as a selling term? Are they saying you can spiritually bypass, or?
No, it's a term.
It's not a selling
It's a term that's been used in the spiritual community for ages.
Yeah, I've heard this term for
at
like
least the last
30 years actually, but I've heard it for.
I didn't know if they're like, oh, you can spiritual bypass, just buy my product or whatever.
No, they don't use it as a selling point. It's more of an understanding. Of how some people are think they can make the leap from the fear-based reality to the love-based reality and bypass all of the work that's involved in the process. So it's not a term that's used to sell a product. It's just it's an understanding that has been recognized for years of how some people would. I mean,
they just don't want to do the work,
right? If we could just like eat ice cream and bypass the heart attack. That kind of thing.
It's laziness. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
laziness,
feeling.
yes.
It's people who are lazy and they don't want to put any effort in at all. They literally want you to just give it to them. It's like, just give me the answers to the test. I don't want to study for the test. Just give me the answers to the test. That's these people.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I just didn't know if they were like,
Yeah.
did you know you could use spiritually bypassing? And but I think the whole point is like we can't achieve enlightenment if we are dragging along our baggage on the way, and we've got to be able to overcome and like dive into that shadow work. Like you said, no one can do it for us. We have to do the work ourselves. And some of the things that I'm seeing a lot are just condemnation and, you know, trying to figure out who's bad and who's good, and criticizing one another. If you're like, I just recently went to a truth tour and took pictures with different truthers and stuff, and I got attacked over that, of course. So there's a lot of like condemnation, finger pointing, there's a lot of judging. And there's a lot of people, so we have that, but then also we are on our light and love path. We're trying to become better humans. We're trying to embrace our spiritual gifts, like build our spiritual gifts. Like I recently just took a tarot course and learning how to learn the cards. And so we want these things, and we want these superpowers that Ishmael has, and that we're all like, we're working.
We all have.
We all have them.
We all have. Yeah.
You're right. So that we want to like, you know, ignite these powers and clear our pineal gland and all that, but we're not going to get anywhere in our pineal gland with a root chakra that's blocked. So there's not enough of us diving into our shadow work and doing some actual like release work. Like I think, well, I'm speaking for myself, I need to be better at releasing the toxic habits, like evolving the toxic relationships. And that's something that I'm working on. And it's like we can't really become enlightened at the top when we've got all this crap going on in our root chakra and our sacral and solar. So I think we all have a lot of work to do, but I think also it's really helpful when people are really honest about their pain. Like I recently saw this episode of like Queen Midas and the Liz Olive show. They're doing this freeing the divine feminine. And one of them, Liz, was talking about, well, this is how I was traumatically abused by my mom growing up. This is how I was abused by my dad growing up. This is how it's affecting me. And this is why. And this is why when I treat my son this way, I'm like being more careful and being like, we're talking about like the great awakening of parents, like, because we're going to have to parent differently. Like there's just, sorry if I get emotional. There's just so much work we have to do, but it really does start with us. And that's where we're getting lost, is like we're going here, there, everywhere, trying to do everything, learn everything. But really it starts here within. Yes, of course it is about saving the kids and also about saving our own kids. It's about our inner child. And so I've been really like paying more attention to my own inner child and trying to show her more love in this.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I think like we can't have the spiritual expansion with all the crap, we're dragging along.
Yeah, the baggage, especially the inner child work. I mean, I was abused from birth until my mother passed away. She was emotionally abusive to me. And so I've had to do healing. And then after she passed away, I had to do more healing. I was already doing healing when she was alive, but then after she passed, I had to do even more healing. And yeah, it was... If you don't
have your spiritual gifts, and you wouldn't be able to have these spiritual gifts and this connection with Yeshua and Mary Magdalene unless you had done all of that work.
Yeah.
And I just want to, thank you, Chelsea, for pointing out the inner child, because I think that when it comes to, healing the shadow and bringing balance within our duality within us, I think freeing the inner child is the indicator that you've done the work, that you are actually free, because it's when we allow our inner child to no longer be suppressed, but to come out, you know. I'm going to share something with you guys that I've never shared before, okay? But because I have such a big imagination, and because I was always in touch with my inner child, I didn't stop playing with toys till the age of 17. I used to I was 17, a senior in high school, and I would look forward to coming home to play with my little man, and I would just, and I embraced that almost to the age of 20. And I was made fun of by my cousins because they stopped playing with toys at the age of 10 or 11. And to me, it was just my way of escaping, my way of just using my imagination and creating my own reality with my little man, as I used to call him. So, I don't know, there's times where I feel like I just want to go and buy these little men, and just, even at the age of 44, I don't care what people say, it's just me, embracing my inner child.
It's an emotional outlet, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And the people who made fun of you, they just have lack of consciousness and understanding about it, because the fact of the matter is every one of us deals with our emotional traumas in a different way, and that is a healthy way to do it. Now, if you dealt with it by going and spray painting all your neighbors' houses, then they would say that was a negative way of how you dealt with your emotional, because I know your story, Ismael, and I know you've gone through horrible, you've had a lot of experiences, just like Salini and I have both had. Well, Salini's experiences are even way worse than mine. Mine were pretty bad, but hers were even worse. You've gone through your own share of trauma in your life. And so that is the way that you dealt with it, in a very healthy way. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And the people who criticize you, it's just like Yeshua always said, forgive them, they know not what they do. They're baby souls. They lack understanding, they lack the compassion, the understanding, and the consciousness. They don't get it. So every one of us needs to deal with it. And I know, Chelsea, you have little kids, don't you have small children? Which is why you were getting emotional just now when you were talking about that, because I know that you're trying to balance being a young mom with little ones, because my little ones are now 22 and 24, so I don't have to go through that. But you don't get an instruction manual when they come into the world. There's no instruction manual. It's really hard to be a parent, and everybody has different situations going on, and then you're trying to do all this emotional or spiritual work on yourself and raise little kiddos at the same time. It's a difficult, delicate balance that you're trying to create. So my hat is off to you as a fellow mom. It's not easy. All the parents out there who are doing spiritual work and trying to raise kids at the same time, it's not easy to do that. So thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. So Salini, I'm gonna end this first question, or this first problem, whatever you want to call it, with you. What have you seen out there with the what do you want to call it, the bypassing? What have you seen? And before you speak, I just wanted to say something really quick. Spiritual bypassing is similar to emotional bypassing, and an example of that is, let's say my mom dies, and instead of grieving over her and processing the grief, I bypass it by just going back to work, burying my head in my career, and ignoring the fact that my mom died, oh well, I cried for a day, I'm over it now, and then go back to work again. And that is bypassing, because they did not do the work on themselves to overcome the grief and to heal the grief. If you don't heal those issues that lie within you, you can't get to the next level. So that is a better example of what spiritual bypassing is it's a lot like emotional bypassing, where you can't just make it go away. You have to go through it. You have to go through it head first. You have to meet the challenge, you have to do the work, and you have to process. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to get anywhere. So Salini, go ahead and share with everybody.
Okay, thanks, Kimberly. First, I'd like to say to Ismael, there's nothing wrong with wanting to play with your little soldiers, however old you are. I loved playing with my dolls in a dollhouse that I had as a child. And one of the things that happened was that my father burned all of my toys and my dolls and everything. Mm-hmm. And that, I could go into a lot of stories, but, whatever I loved, he took, and he made sure I didn't have it. So one of the things that I'm really interested in is doing a dollhouse with miniatures as a hobby. But I haven't had time. I'm too busy saving lives. But someday, maybe when I'm more retired, I envision having a dollhouse, and with, miniatures, if you've seen those, they have shows and everything all over the world with these incredible little chairs and furniture and stuff like that. So don't feel bad. I'm going to do it too.
Right.
As for the spiritual bypassing, what I see is that's really a coping mechanism for not facing your inner trauma and your core healing work. And people that have found something that works, that's comfortable, that whether it's a spiritual program or a substance abuse that they're going to abuse or something else that takes away the pain and suffering of what it is they have to face when they awaken. So, people who aren't ready to hear the truth, if you try to share it, will just go directly to the spiritual bypass. No, we don't talk negative here. We just do love and light and stuff like that. And what I see is that it's not helpful to judge, because it just pushes us back into duality when we're judging. So, when I see people doing that, I know that they're not ready to face their trauma. And as a person who is severely traumatized, what I learned that works for me is to be loved unconditionally. The more unconditional love you experience, the more you can come through your trauma. It's like until somebody has enough compassion for the worst thing that ever happened to you and can actually listen and to your story and cry with you. I mean, I can almost cry right now just thinking about the small number of people that could ever hear my story, which is amazing to me. People will say, well, we don't want to hear that. I go, well, I had to live it. So you can't even hear it, but I had to live it all these years. And the byproduct of having that kind of trauma is a shutdown of your entire system, of your aura, your cellular functioning, all kinds of things. So I had to be brave enough to go into that without any support. And that's why I became very connected to the divine. And I was able to say to Spirit, I need you to support me because I can't find anybody who can. And in that process, I realized that my greatest gift was to give back the compassion to others who were stuck in their spiritual bypassing or in their trauma, and give to them what nobody was able to give to me. I mean, there's a couple people along the way that really helped to save my life, but if it hadn't have been for the spiritual energy and the unconditional love that I received as a student of Mrs. Takata and as a Reiki master, the energy that came to me, the divine energy that entered into my soul, I would not have been able, I'd probably be a spiritual bypasser. But because I received enough divine energy from God, I was able to transmute the denial. I was able to transmute the lies. I was able to transmute the trauma, and I was able to look square. Also, I'm like a quintuple Aquarius, so we are really into the truth. So I was able to say, okay, I want the truth. Give it to me. And that truth, hits you like a ton of bricks. And when that happens, only the strong survive. I'm telling you. And that's why people take on spiritual bypassing, or they take on drugs, or they take on TV or movies or excessive exercise or sex or whatever it is, because it's just too much, And so I find that in order to assist people to go beyond their spiritual bypassing, I have to offer them as much love and compassion as I can possibly give them, so they can be safe enough to walk through their traumatic memories and their traumatic episodes. If they can come to me and put their head on my chest or on my shoulder, and I can walk them through it, and then they can have their sobbing and their crying and the pain. And once they've done that, once or twice, you'd be surprised how quickly they move beyond that point into their spiritual awakening. So that's part of my core work with people is, let's go down to the core of your trauma. Let's go down. What's the worst thing? Is it past life? Maybe, some of the things that come up for people were things that happened in other lifetimes. Like I remember a lot of my lifetimes. I died in Dachau in the concentration camp in my last life. And I just bounced right back and, bounced right back into a Nazi father. My father's a Nazi. And so I wasn't finished with that lesson. And Yeshua came to me and said, you don't need to do this anymore. And I had a visitation, and he said, this is the lifetime you complete all those lessons of not feeling your pain. And you didn't know how to stop it. And he told me I had to take you out of that lifetime to stop it from consuming you. And now you're back, and you get to this time we're going to do it. But he also said the whole planet's going to do it. And everybody at once that's what we're witnessing right now, is a collective trauma coming to the surface, and people are freaking out, and they don't understand, how to stay centered through that storm. And this is what, I said in the beginning, like Victoria and I have talked about it once. We have to stay centered in the storm of trauma that's happening right now. This is a healing crisis. It's not the end of the world. It's the end of the matrix. It's not the end of civilization. Mm-hmm. It's the beginning of a new civilization of awakened souls, and walk around reacting. Your trauma, my trauma, I'm going to react to your trauma. You're reacting. Come on, duality. Let's have it out. We're just all reacting, to old business. And so if we can stay centered in unconditional love, and just say, okay, I forgive my dad. I forgive my family members. My father was tortured by his father and his grandfather. So should I hate him for that? No, I was able to say to him, I really love you, Dad, but, you're an abuser. And he was not able to understand that. And I said, well, I'm going to love you anyway, and I'm going to forgive you. And that releases me from constantly reacting. Now, he has to go on and do that in another lifetime, but I can move on into the next level of my awareness when I don't stay stuck and attached to all these different things that were painful and cause me or someone else to go into spiritual bypassing. So when somebody is really, really hurting, Kimberly, they're going to look for, there's four paths of trauma. There's numbing, there's running, hiding, and then there's transcendence. And a lot of people will run for something that makes them feel comfortable, whether it's a husband or a wife, a boyfriend, sex, something like that. And then when that stops working, you have to go to transcendence. And all of those things could be categorized as spiritual bypassing. Mm-hmm. And
drugs and alcohol.
And they're very unconscious, so when people, it doesn't help for us to say, hey, you're spiritual bypassing, I don't like you. People don't understand that. What helps is for you to make a container, a sacred alchemical container of love, and say, come here, what's going on with you, and when they feel ready and safe enough, they will come and they will share it with you. So the judgment needs to go, so that we can create a safe space for all of us to stop spiritual bypassing. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Huge. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'm going to start back with you again, Selene, because before we came on recording this, you said that you wanted to talk about some crazy stuff that's going to be happening on the planet. And I really want to talk about that because that's important. So do you want to go ahead and start off with talking about what you were explaining to all of us before we started recording?
Yeah, well, this is a momentous month. And I'm sure all of you know, as spiritually awakened beings, what's about to happen. I think we all know that there are certain dates that are set in stone in a divine alignment that are going to make it possible for us to move to the next levels. And some of that is connected to our ability to hold the light into our bodies so that we can anchor this new world. I'm sure Ismael talks about it all the time. We've heard dozens of your interviews and he talks about it all the time. It's really important for us to stay anchored in the light so that it can be anchored here. So what's coming up, let me just kind of briefly go over the astrology and then we go into this craziness that's going to happen. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, I can't tell you how huge the alignment is tomorrow. Now, the first is a Vedic that I'm going to tell you. Tomorrow is Saturn stationing in Capricorn exact at 24 degrees. So this is a Vedic alignment. And so it would be Aquarius in the Western. And what that means is the end of the patriarchy completely. It's also going to be aligning soon after with Uranus, which is explosive change and revolution. So Capricorn represents this patriarchal structure of the planet. And Saturn is, after years of being retrograded, we are moving into a Pluto return, which means a death and a rebirth. And it starts tomorrow. It's been going on. We can see all the changes, but there's a big one starting tomorrow. And when it stations at 24 degrees, it's going to hit everybody like a ton of bricks. I suggest you look up your charts to see in Vedic astrology if you have any planets at 24 degrees. You're going to feel it. Just so happens that in Vedic, I'm Capricorn. So my Capricorn sun is direct at 24 degrees. So it's going to hit me tomorrow at like whatever hour it is that it stations. That's the beginning of this whole cycle. Then comes October 25th is a solar eclipse. Now, according to, I've listened to a lot of astrologers. I'm trying to understand for myself what exactly is happening. And one of these astrologers happens to also be a stock market analyst. And he did a 400-year examination of all of the crashes that's ever happened in the history back to 1600. And he said it's always the same alignment. And he said it starts with a full moon. And then within 6 weeks is a solar eclipse. And it has to be exact number of days and a sacred geometrical pattern in between them, and then you have a financial crash. And he said this particular alignment that is happening this year on the 24th is the exact same alignment that happened in 1929 for the stock market crash. So he predicts that it's going to be the biggest crash in the history, in global history, on October 24th.
Good.
Others are saying it could be tomorrow, October 22nd. Nevertheless, it's somewhere in there because now I have another astrologer who's confirming it from another standpoint. So I believe we're going to have an economic crash between now and October 31st. So I hope everybody got your ducks in a row. At the same time, there's positive things coming through with that. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect, which is worse, really, is the onset of World War III, which is appearing in the sky on October 31st. According to the alignment in the sky, it's Mars entering Uranus, explosive Uranus, which is when those two come together, at a certain degree, it's war. And Putin has declared it, martial law. They're ramping up their forces. But what people do not know, which is worse, and this is the bad stuff I have to say, because I think people need to know this, is that the fake president has he has given away all of our military arsenal to Afghanistan. They gave away billions and billions and billions of dollars. They shipped it over there. It's not just when we left. They shipped it over there. Now, I've been listening to some military analysts, and they say that we only have 300 ballistic missiles left to defend the United States, up against 12 to 15,000 from Russia and China. And Russia and China are combining forces to meet at the Ukrainian situation, as well as over the border of near Alaska. So those forces are already in place. And I think the scariest thing I heard was that, and I just think people need to know this, is that Chinese conducted a COM, if you know what that is, which is a test and a signal that they sent out to Texas. It was either yesterday or I think it was the day before yesterday, to test to see if they could block out the GPS over Texas. The Chinese have already declared, and I heard this intel 2 or 3 months ago from an insider in the Chinese Communist Party, that they're planning to attack the United States in November. And so when they did this test, they also did the same thing in Ukraine, and they were successful at blanking out all the radar in the Ukraine so they could move in against Russia. And now they did it in Texas. And so military analysts are saying that that is a signal of an imminent Chinese land invasion or a missile invasion of the United States. And they're in position all around us, like in Canada, Mexico, and California. And so the question is it going to happen? Divinely, I hear that we're going to be okay, but I think it's possible that war is going to be declared and we're going to go through all this.
Martial law lockdown is coming.
Yeah. And this is where the good stuff comes in. So I don't mean to scare everybody, but I think people need to understand this is the moment in history where the American empire ends and the birth of a new global empire occurs. That's not an empire, but a new millennium. And so America has to die as this military empire.
Near-death experience.
Right. Yep. In order for this new, I'm sure you all agree, and I'm sure Ismael, you've been talking about various things.
Yeah, 107 talked about for a long time now, a near-death experience that we have to go through.
And we Americans have never, pretty cocky. We've never had to really go through something like what Germany went through in World War II. And I used to live in Germany. In this lifetime, I was an exchange student there. And let me tell you, they've had their humbling. They know that what they did was wrong. We're still walking around like we're the best in the world and everything's okay, nothing's going to happen. So he tells us, and I have to minimize the screen so I can look at it here because it's so in-depth. He says there's a divine alignment occurring coming up this week. And because we are in a Pluto return, which is a death and rebirth in the United States, it's right over us right now.
Wow.
And apparently, there is something, a very unusual astronomical event occurring called a red cosmic light, which is shining just in certain parts of the world. And it's shining on the United States, Russia, China, Canada, and Japan. All the places that are most involved in this potential war, it's shining on there. And this is going to bring divine light to these areas.
Wow.
And then on top of that, there's going to be, first we have the solar eclipse, and then we're going to have this incredible lunar eclipse. The Pleiadians are assisting us right now, folks, whether anybody wants to believe that or not, but they're here. And this particular alignment shows the Pleiadian, it's called a Pleiadian alignment, and in the Bible it talks about the sweet influence of the Pleiadians and how they played a role in the saving grace and how they helped Trump win. And so this particular alignment, if you break it down numerologically, translates into 777, which is a very divine alignment. This is going to happen on November 8th in the sky.
Ooh.
And when this happens, it's happened several times before. And so when our country was founded, it was actually founded on the planet, on the star Hades, which was a dark alignment, which started off our country in a dark way. So you had all these men come with the Masons, and they started the United States to be a basically an enslaving nation, enslaving other nations. That Hades alignment has been in position since 1789. It comes to an end on November 8th. And because of the Pleiadian influence, it's going to move us from a dark energy to a light energy. That's what he is telling us in this particular astrological thing. It's amazing. He says that he sees the death of the the Democratic Party and the rebirth of the Republican Party to be a spiritual party that is going to begin to restore the United States. So that's the first part. The second part is a strong transfer of power from what has been up till now to some new force. And that new force is going to be positive and spiritual. And one of the most amazing things that he sees in the chart is that the Pluto return ends and we are born again here. And I don't know if we're going to be born as a whole nation or not, but it looks like it. It looks like it. And one of the things that he believes is coming is that there will be a new super group of empowered divine feminine leaders that are alpha leaders, that are very patriotic and very spiritual together, who are going to heal this area of the world and bring it out into the whole world, and is going to birth a new wave of crystal children who are going to solidify the new millennium. And I'm wondering if that is an alignment, Ismael, with what you're saying.
Chills.
Do you see this? Do you see this, Ismael? Because this is what I'm hearing, is that this is the death right now, this week. What do you think about that?
As you were, saying all this, I felt that there's a lot of truth to that. The new Nicera programs, the Saint Germain trust funds that are going to be rolled out, and that's what it sounds like to me. So,
and while it does say that, it says that truth tellers will be recognized and be held in divine light. And it says that the financial, where does he say that here? This is a really, really long report that I had to study for a long time. Here it is. The eighth house will be activated in the United States. And what that means is that the second and eighth houses control the finances and the gross national product of our country, the standard of living, and the national debt. It's going to die and be reborn. It says this eclipse is going to have powerful positive effects on inflation, wages, currency value, debt, interest rates, taxation, and national resources, and a standard of living. And then there's going to be a dramatic shift right after that. So I think what you just said is a yes, Ismael. I really do. I think we're going to see our quantum financial system come into
Chẳng được quên khi cơn mưa đêm lại về. Em đã quên lời thề và ta như đông chìm sâu. Không còn mới em anh nhận màu. Em chỉ cần mơ đâu em bay. Chỉ còn là những cơn mưa vô giá. Cho bên mơ em không mơ anh. Anh một đêm mơ chỉ cho bên em không được còn nhớ. Và chỉ có em không còn nhớ. Và người ta bên nhau như ngã tớ. Muốn nhớ về say em chỉ có mấy em ở đây. Và anh như muốn chết đi nhưng không muốn em mơ mày. Tình yêu làm cho ta đau đầu. Không em như nằm mơ mộng. Anh như đang mong cầu. Và mưa bên em hôn sầu. Chắc có mà mai em mơ. Chỉ có bên em nhưng là có mơ. Mà đã ra em muốn bên ai. Anh không mong gì hơn. Chỉ mong em sẽ ở đây ôm anh thật gần. Anh chỉ mong đôi ta được có nhau. Mà đừng biết đâu anh có em. Một đêm bên anh có em. Ta sẽ trao nhau môi hôn thật sâu. Ôm anh.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the handlebars. Crashing in my car, wake up in a bar. I'll be a superstar, just on my avatar. This world is so bizarre, empty out the reservoir. Yeah, I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going crazy. Don't think I'll get home safe. So I'm taking 6 shots all straight to the face. I'm taking 6 shots, are you coming with me? I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going crazy. Don't think I'll get home safe. So I'm taking 6 shots all straight to the face. I'm taking 6 shots, are you coming with me? Sometimes you need to let loose, grab juice, get goose, tattoos, taboos, get screwed. Loosen up, buttercup, all those hate comments will never make you feel enough. We're all adequate graduates, hearts full of calluses, but we know calculus. Damn, ain't that fabulous. Can't wait to apply all those mathematicus. But we can't.